Hello and welcome back. I'm Rachel. You're watching Kalkine TV live from Sydney, and this is the Mid-Market Pulse. Let's get started with the mid-market commentary for today and see how the ASX200 is trading by lunchtime. The shares are trading in the green on Wednesday morning. The market is upbeat as the Reserve Bank of Australia says that the economy has been recovering faster than anticipated earlier. The benchmark S&P ASX200 was up 58.4 points or 82 points to 7,201 at 12:56 hours this morning after setting a 52-week high. Today, the Australian Bureau of Statistics said the country's GDP has grown by 1.8% in the March quarter on a sequential basis, even though this is the third consecutive quarter of slowdown post-recovery, but it hints at faster recovery. On an annual basis, which takes care of seasonalities, the economy has grown 1.1%. The level of economic activity is now 80 basis points above December quarter 2019, which is pre-pandemic levels. We'll discuss by the end of the show. More on the sectoral front. 8 of 11 sectors are higher, with the S&P ASX200 index. Energy has been the best performing sector, gaining 2.42% during the day. On the other hand, down by 75 basis points, healthcare was the worst hit sector. Moving on now to the top gainers and losers of this hour. Australian mining company Pilbara Minerals is among the top gainers on the ASX, up 4.78% to $1.32. Santos Nickel Mines were the other top gainers, both gaining over 4%. Top losers include Ansell, Omni, Bridgeway and Fisher & Paykel Healthcare. They're all down by almost 3%. Let us look at the stocks that are in the news today now. First news, Engine and Fuel Orbital Corporation reported delivering in the first engine system to Singapore Defence Company. They had signed a memorandum of understanding with one of Singapore's most prominent defence companies back in March 2020. The MOU was for the design, development and initial low rate of production for multi-fuel engines for unmanned aerial vehicles. Their shares were up 4.68%, trading at $1. In the next news, Race Oncology has appointed the contract research organisation Paykel International to boost an open-label Phase 2 clinical trial in patients with relapsed extramedullary acute myeloid leukemia. The trial will be led by Principal Investigator Associate Professor Anup Enjeti, Director of Haematology at the Calvary, Mater, Newcastle and John Hunter Hospitals. At noon, their shares were trading at $3.65, up 1.95%. Let's look at the next stock now. Wiser has completed an institutional placement, raising $50 million via the issuance of 200 million new ordinary shares. The issue price for the placement shares was 25 cents per share. The company's statement informed Wiser were trading at 26.5 cents, down by 17%. Moving on now, Alto Metals shared assay results from an ongoing major reverse circulation drilling program restarted in February at its 100% owned 900-kilometre sandstone gold project. This project covers the majority of the sandstone greenstone belt in Western Australia. Shares were down 4.12% at 9.3 cents. Next up, after the market closed yesterday, Imagion Biosystems said it's received its 2020 Research and Development Tax Incentive claim of $2.6 million from the Taxation Office. The release says this is higher than the $2.2 million received respected of the 2019 claim and reflects increased R&D spend in 2020 as the company undertook preparatory activities towards the first-in-human trial of its MagSense imaging technology in HER2-positive breast cancer patients. Shares were down, though, 4.5% and trading at 10.5 cents. Now, before I share some more news on ASX-listed stocks, it's time for a very short break.
At Kalkine TV, we'll take you to the heart of the Australian equity market. We'll bring you breakthrough stories that highlight volatility, as well as tailwinds building across the length and breadth of markets. Whether space travel will gain momentum, while economies may gradually open amid vaccine rollouts. Our experts will share their timely inputs. So join us on this exciting journey of live streaming, financial and stock market news. Kalkine TV.
Hello and welcome back. You're watching Kalkine TV live from the Sydney studios. I'm Rachel and we're looking at what the market is doing by midday within the Australian Stock Exchange. First up, we're going to talk about this stock is in the news today. Immutep, they announced a new collaboration and supply agreement with Merck Darmstadt in Germany for a phase 1 and phase 2A clinical trial in patients with solid tumours called Insight 005. At noon, their shares were trading at 69 cents. That was down 1.4% as compared to yesterday's closing price. Meanwhile, in the US, the revenues of Zoom video communications multiplied around 3 times in the first quarter of the current financial year. That's as the company continues to cash in on virtual work amid the rising COVID-19 cases as many people choose to work from home. The revenue of the company stood at $956.24 million American dollars in the quarter ending April, up almost 3 times from the $328.17 million American dollars reported in the corresponding quarter last year. The financial year of the company starts on the 1st of February and ends on January the 31st. The net profit of the company for the quarter stood at $227.38 million American dollars. That was 9 times more than the $27.4 million American dollars reported a year ago. Well, now let's focus on global market trade. The Nikkei 225 in Japan gained 0.22%, while the Topix index climbed 0.67%. In South Korea, the Kospi rose 0.25%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng index shed 0.36%. Mainland Chinese stocks also declined as the Shanghai Composite fell slightly, and the Shenzhen Composite dipped 0.217%. American finance company MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside of Japan traded fractionally higher. In corporate development, shares of Japan's Toyota and Honda rose 1.5% and 4.25% respectively. Those gains came despite reports that the automakers have temporarily suspended production in Malaysia due to the country's lockdown, which started on Tuesday. Now let's move on to the top cryptocurrency prices today. The crypto market remained muted on the negative side during the Asian trading hour, with major crypto tokens trading lower after yesterday's gains. Market sentiment remained positive as investors opting to hold digital assets over bonds in an inflationary environment. Bitcoin, the largest cryptocurrency by market value, was trading around $36,308.43 American dollars, down 3.67% in the last 24 hours. The price of Bitcoin moved in a tight range of $35,715 American dollars and $37,908 American dollars in the past 24 hours. The price movement has been stuck below $40,000 US dollars for the past 2 weeks, amid reports of tighter regulations on digital assets by the US and Chinese authorities. In a similar trend, Ether, the second largest crypto, was down 3.93% in the past 24 hours to trade at $2,607 American dollars. The Shiba Inu-based meme currency Dogecoin is quoting 35.7 cents, rising 10.14% in the last 24 hours. Before I share more news on Australia's March quarter GDP, it's time for a short break.
Property by Kalkine. Looking for a dream home? Well, that may sound easy, but it isn't. And from looking for a property that is the right fit for you in terms of cost and other factors, to zeroing down on the right mortgage plan, there are various aspects to consider. And for the latest slowdown in the property market, tune in on Kalkine TV with me, Sage. I will give the latest updates on the property market as well as real estate stocks to help you make the right decision. Keep watching Property with Kalkine.
a very warm welcome back. I'm Rachel and you're watching Kalkine TV live from Sydney. This is the Mid-Market Pulse. The Australian economic activity recovered to be above pre-coronavirus levels and grew by 1.8% in the March quarter. With this, the annual growth stood at 1.1%. That's according to data released by the Australian Bureau of Statistics. The GDP numbers beat the average expectations of economists who projected the GDP growth in the first 3 months of the year to be 1.5%. An annual growth of 0.6%. In the December quarter, GDP expanded by 3.2%, revised up from 3.1%. As expected, the Australian dollar reacted positively to the upbeat GDP data and was trading 0.15% higher at 77.67 cents. According to analysts, the domestic currency is expected to chart an upside break and move towards 78 cents and beyond. The private investment grew by 5.3% and contributed 0.9 percentage points to growth. According to the ABS, the rise in machinery and equipment investment was widespread and observed in both mining and non-mining industries. Household spending increased 1.2% and added 0.7 percentage points on growth. Spending on services rose 2.4% as COVID-19 restrictions continue to ease. The household saving to income ratio fell slightly but remained elevated at 11.6%. Meanwhile, on Tuesday, in a widely expected decision, the Reserve Bank of Australia kept its monetary policy settings unchanged at 0.1%. The central bank sounded dovish as against expectations of a hawkish tone as it awaited inflation and wage pressures. OK, then that's all for now. Stay tuned with Kalkine TV for more live market updates. We'll be back with more news on the markets, economy and diverse themes and sectors. I'm Rachel, signing off for now.